Sonic Frontiers is a very important game to me. It took the series in a new direction. It was ambitious. As a longtime fan of the series, I followed the game from reveal to release. After playing through it a few times, I'd like to give my thoughts on it. Please note though, all opinions shared relate to the base version of the game, as it will most likely be updated by the time this goes out. I don't know if things will be changed, but for now, this is where I stand. So here we go. Let's get into it. In 2021, Sega hosted a special presentation titled Sonic Central in celebration of Sonic's 30th anniversary. While short, it showed off quite a bit, with personal highlights being a live symphony orchestra performance, a remaster of a decade-old Wii game for modern consoles, and a 30-second teaser for what appeared to be a new mainline title from Sonic Team, but nobody had any idea what to make of it. All we got was a symbol and a 2022 release date. However, this was enough to get me excited. At that point, it had been about 4 years since the last Sonic game, which I did not enjoy at all. Forces left me cautious about Sonic Team's future, but something about this new title kept me intrigued. Fast forward to December, and we're given a title drop and the reveal that the new game will be an open world, or as Sonic Team calls it, open zone, Sonic game. This is a dream come true for me. Open world Sonic was something I had wanted to see from the series for years, and the fact that we were actually getting that excited me to no end. At the same time though, I was also worried. The fact this game was coming out after Sonic Forces was already a red flag to me. Forces was a huge letdown to me in so many ways. It presented itself as a next-gen version of Sonic Generations, one of my favorite games of all time. I was so excited to see what they would do with the boost formula at this point. The control, the polish, the way it felt to blaze through my favorite levels. I was so excited for more of that. We didn't get that, and I didn't want my potential dream game to end up the same way. A watered-down version of something that could have been so much greater. I followed the news all year long. While a lot of people say the initial gameplay reveal wasn't great, I found things to get excited for. I specifically hyperfixated on this one bit where Sonic runs through the arena-looking structure here. I don't know why this resonated with me, but it did. It was lackluster all around, but I saw the potential, even if I was still forcing myself to be cautious. The Nintendo Direct Mini showed off Cyberspace for the first time, and the story trailer showed off the creature I would proceed to cherish to no end for the next few months. I even made a Twitter gimmick account. The first full week of September, they dropped 2 of the big songs for the game within 2 days of each other, and the feeling of taking 10 minutes out of my evening college class to listen to Vandalize that night was something I'll probably never get again. Certain game show conventions also started to offer demos of the game to people there around this time, and the reception was surprisingly positive. Between this and becoming a part of a certain streamer's community earlier in 2022, it was really hard not to get excited for this game. It felt like the two sides of my mind were at war with each other. This game looks great, I can't wait to get my hands on it. But what if it turns out bad? You don't want to get your hopes up again like this, do you? Closer to launch, those negative thoughts started to fade out. As I saw more of the game through new trailers and demo footage, I couldn't contain my excitement. Not to mention the last 3 weeks prior to the game's release saw 2 short comics and one of the coolest prequel animations I've ever seen posted to Twitter. At 10:30 in the morning, right in the middle of my college badminton class. Essentially, my Tuesday mornings were absolutely spectacular for 3 weeks straight. The Thursday before release, in another college class of mine, this time public speaking, I ended up giving a speech about why Frontiers would be a good game. I partially did this to help ease my conscience about the game, because if I can convince other people the game looks good, maybe it actually will be. Alright gang, it's Judgment Day. I've been saving money for this game for 2 months and I'm buying it 4 times. Also, I'm here with Adam.
Hi.
Oh, okay. Yo, there it is on TV. Yeah! Alright gang, here we go. Today's the day. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have 4 versions of this game. I've been waiting for this day for a year and a half. Why is your finger on the camera?
It's not on the camera, don't worry. No,
Okay.
it's not. Now it's off.
Okay, Adam. I have 4 of these.
Steel cases.
I have 4 steel books.
Nice.
I know exactly where this is going.
I just got one too.
I'm so excited, man.
Nice.
So yeah, I bought the game 4 times. I wanted to get it on PS5 and Switch no matter what, but I figured it'd be cool to have a full set of the game physically, so here we are. I believe giving a bit of backstory on the game's pre-release and my own thoughts at the time is important, because oh my god, I love this game. But I think it has a few issues. After seeing Eggman evaporate and Sonic and the gang flying over these new frontiers, we find our blue blur stranded in glitchy Green Hill. It absolutely took me a minute to adjust to the new voice direction in this game, but I'll touch on that a little later. Since we're here in cyberspace right now, I want to highlight the fact that I think this is the worst part of the game hands down. Sonic doesn't feel great to control here at all. Cyberspace essentially acts like your typical boost formula level like you'd see in Sonic Unleashed, Colors, Generations, or... yeah. When I think of these types of levels, I think of being able to blaze through everything lightning fast, finding a sense of flow utilizing Sonic's moveset and looking cool while doing it. In Frontiers, it feels almost nothing like that. There are a ton of small things that add up here and make this feel completely different to everything that came before it. Sonic's base speed is extremely slow, and the boost isn't that much faster. There's a cooldown using homing attacks on enemies which slows the pace down and breaks that sense of flow. Jumping kills all momentum, the quick step feels slow, the drop dash is borderline useless here. Wall jumping is slow, the stomp jump you can do by holding the button down locks you in that animation for a while, so even if you're targeting something, you can't do anything until you double jump. For some reason, hitting a spring or a pole or anything like that does not refresh your boost or stomp, meaning situations like this happen where you are forced to wait to get up this wall and then you have to wait to fall all the way back down the other side, whereas in other games this issue doesn't exist. It feels so slow and annoying when games prior get a lot of this correct. Even Sonic Forces has a better sense of speed here than this game. It's obvious this Sonic was not made for these types of levels, and that's okay. There are a few things Cyberspace has that still make it enjoyable for me. First, the homing dash. While it isn't exclusive to Cyberspace, it's much more noticeable here. Basically, if you target an enemy or object from far away enough, press the homing attack button, then while you're moving towards it, hit the boost button, you'll shoot yourself in the direction the control stick is facing. This allows you to skip entire parts of levels, make a few shortcuts, or blaze through sections with speed that actually feels like speed. Like in 1-7 where you could go the normal route, but why would you do that when you can just fly over everything? You can also carry that momentum onto grind rails, like in 1-2, and it feels awesome to pull off. Second, these levels are actually pretty well designed. Most of them are remade from previous games, but built around this new engine. I enjoy a lot of the layouts here, like 4-4, 1-2, 3-3, 4-2, 2-2, and 4-7. I just wish Sonic controlled in a way that was better able to take full advantage of them. 3-5 is terrible though. They put drifting in this one level and made it control worse than Colors. How? The levels are all themed after Sonic's past. Green Hill, Chemical Plant, Sky Sanctuary, and City. Just City. I wish they added more themes to these. It would have been so cool to see places like Savannah Citadel, Aquarium Park, Angel Island, Eggman Land, or Metal Harbor. Just seeing these 4 themes over and over is a bit underwhelming, but the levels are at least somewhat enjoyable. I know a lot of people straight up don't like seeing reused levels again, but I don't mind since story-wise it makes sense. It feels like they're here for a reason. I just wish they did more with it. Overall, I'm really mixed on Cyberspace. There are absolutely some improvements over previous games here, and I enjoy going back to some of these levels, but it doesn't feel nearly the same as it did before. Like I said, this Sonic was not made for this style. So why don't we move on to what he was made for? Once you clear the first Cyberspace level, you're sent into the main focus of the game, the open zone Starfall Islands, specifically Kronos Island. Sonic is guided by a mysterious voice to tear down the walls between dimensions and find the Chaos Emeralds. With that, we're on our way. The tutorial part of the island is slow to get through, but it's once you make it to the greater Kronos Island that things really open up. The open zone style plays wonderfully, and Sonic controls almost perfectly. A lot of those small issues from earlier are still here, but I'm more forgiving of it here since the pacing is different. It's focused more on exploration instead of timed linear levels you can go back and speedrun. Some important things get fixed too. Some of Sonic's stats can be changed in the settings menu with these sliders here. This changes a variety of aspects, from top speed to turning speed. This is awesome! And it doesn't carry over to the Cyberspace levels.
Why?
My favorite thing you're able to get in the open zone is the power boost. Once you unlock the Psyloop skill, run around in a circle multiple times to fill your ring meter, and then this really cool cutscene plays and you're now ridiculously fast. Every time I get hit, I'll just start running in circles because the power boost makes traversing the islands way more fun. You fly off surfaces and jump off grind rails way further. It's amazing. You're able to upgrade Sonic here too. There's a skill tree that unlocks new moves to use in combat, plus air tricks. I loved air tricks in Sonic Generations, so to see that return and able to be done faster now was a really nice surprise. You can hit special glowing dash rings and springs that make Sonic leave a trail of sparks behind him in the air. If you see those, start mashing your control stick, it's time.
Insane.
You can also make Sonic enter air trick mode by running off specific surfaces. Or getting lucky sometimes, it's a 50-50 shot really.
The terrain is really weird in this game. It tries to make Sonic stick to the ground a lot, and surfaces that look like you're able to run and trick off of them send you straight down, while other things like tiny rocks and these metal things in Kronos let you fly off just fine. Running on some surfaces will force Sonic to bounce off it like he's doing a homing attack, which gets very annoying. It's odd, but once you learn the layout, it's manageable.
The islands themselves are filled with cyberspace portals, enemies, collectibles, and random springs and dash pads that send you into mini platforming challenges. It's like a boost level, but shorter. These are really fun. Having these in the open area where once you get through it you can go right back to running around freely makes a nice sense of flow between objectives. There's things you can do while running from point A to point B and it feels fun. Most of these are 3D, but sometimes the camera will lock you into a 2D plane. Seeing the island scenery in the background is cool, but it's annoying when you're running around the island and you're accidentally sent into one of these and have to clear it to get out. Some of them have ways to exit out early, like turning around or falling off the platform, but there are some where you have to clear either all or a large portion of the level to get back to doing what you were doing, and it sucks. At the end of each one, you're rewarded a memory token. These are one of the main collectibles in the game, and they allow you to trigger cutscenes with Amy, Knuckles, or Tails depending on what island you're on. There are little puzzles around the islands that unlock parts of the map when you complete them. Problem is it unlocks random parts of the map instead of just showing the spot you're at. There are also two kinds of cyber portals. Red ones send you to a normal cyberspace level, but purple ones send you to Big. You can fish with Big.
What are you doing here?
This is basically an alternate way to progress through the game. Collect these purple tokens throughout the islands, then use them to go fishing. You get tokens for whatever you fish up, and can spend those on pretty much all the big collectibles, making it so you can skip entire parts of the game and just relax. As long as you have enough tokens. There are quite a few main collectibles throughout the game. Portal gears power the cyberspace portals, vault keys unlock the chaos emeralds, red and blue seeds increase your power and defense, skill pieces let you use the skill tree, and Koco increase your speed and ring meter. Okay, fine, let me talk about the Koco real quick. Back when the story trailer dropped, I was enlightened to the existence of the Koco. I mean, what's not to love? They're cute little rock creatures that make piano noises every time they take a step. They're hiding all throughout the islands, and if you collect some, then stand around for a couple seconds, they'll appear in front of you. They roll around, and they can even do a backflip. They're my second favorite small creature in a video game, right behind Lumas from Super Mario Galaxy. I think the two would get along with each other very well. They'd totally be friends. What would they talk about? I was so happy to catch cutscenes involving Koco, seeing them roll around and be happy until... Why is their music swelling? No! No! There are two other variations of Koco though. Hermit Koco, who raise your power and defense stats using those seeds from earlier, and Elder Koco. This guy sucks. With Hermit Koco, he'll upgrade your stats all at once. Elder Koco hates you. You have to level up one by one with this guy. I spent a good half an hour just upgrading. What do I have to show for it? My air boost is faster now, I guess. That's all it is. And it's frustrating to know that this is how it is because it could have been done so much better. Okay, now back to the islands. There's a day and night cycle, and it applies to the cutscenes too. It makes certain aspects of the game look way cooler depending on the time of day. Sometimes during the night, this thing will happen called Starfall, where meteors fall across the islands. This resurrects any enemies and mini-bosses you've defeated, and these shards scatter the island. Collect these to roll this slot machine that gives you fishing tokens. And they also place a slot machine in this really weird spot. It's kind of like right here above center, and it makes it so that if you have the camera positioned a certain way, you can't really see what's in front of you when running around. You guys know me though, I've never actually had any issues with this. I'm simply the best player in the world, and I don't understand why people are complaining about it. It's like not that big of a deal. Like, come on, just get better at the game. This is the easiest way to rack up a ton of tokens quickly, and it's fun to run around the island and see how many you can collect before the sun rises. There are 4 main islands in the game: Kronos, Ares, Chaos, and Uranos. It shows 5, but Ray Island is purely a story-based island. Each one houses its own cyberspace portals, challenges, secrets, and its own enemies, although some are recycled throughout, like... Kronos is your starter island, although I think this may be my favorite island to run around. It was originally planned to be a much larger island, but during development it was split into 3, and that's how Rhea and Uranos were born. Again, Rhea is purely a story island. You climb up these ridiculously tall towers, each one its own level of sorts. I enjoy going through these, and while it gets annoying when you fall off, if you reach certain spots, these pulleys will appear and take you back up. It acts like a checkpoint system. From the top of each tower, you can run off of it and trick all the way down, giving you insane amounts of XP. And that's probably my favorite thing to do on the island. Uranos is the final island of the game. It's fairly similar to Kronos, but the enemies are tougher to take down. That's pretty much it.
Ares Island is one huge desert. Sometimes it's easy to get lost, but running through it is fun. There are a lot of elevated sections and tunnels to secret areas. It makes using the layout to your advantage much more fun, even if you have to fight a tank to do it sometimes.
Chaos Island is probably my least favorite island. The first time through, I constantly got lost. The game would sometimes make you run from one side of the island all the way to the other. Normally that's not a huge deal, but here, the island is completely split into sections. You have to use these grind rails to travel from place to place. I didn't understand that my first time through and ended up spending way too much time trying to lock onto this bird thing to fly over the gap. It also doesn't help that there's an overwhelming amount of 2D sections on this island. One of the big problems I have with this game is the fact that anytime you go 2D, it automatically slows Sonic down. It's not super noticeable in Cyberspace since 3D and 2D sections are separated by level, but it's really noticeable on the islands, especially Chaos Island. Plus the power boost feels exactly the same as the normal one. It makes doing any of the 2D sections way more annoying to run through because it feels so unnecessarily slow. I do think the island is more manageable on revisits though. You progress through the first 3 islands the exact same. Collect gears from enemies, collect vault keys through cyberspace, get memory tokens and talk to whoever, survive an encounter with a titan, help the little rock guys in the form of these short mini-games, repeat until you get 6 chaos emeralds, play through a puzzle of sorts, then fight the titan. Each island has different missions and its own way of going about the general gameplay loop, and we'll talk about the titans later, but I want to focus real quick on the puzzle you have to go through at the end of each island. You unlock these just before fighting the boss, and these are the most tedious and boring things to go through in the whole game. Kronos is this make the beam make the shape on the ground thing. You can move certain poles, but moving one moves select other ones. Usually I just move them around until I get lucky enough to move on. Ares takes 5 seconds, and Chaos houses a pinball machine. Remember how I said Cyberspace was the worst part of the game? I lied. It's this. This pinball machine is the most frustrating part of the game. You hit the pinball around the machine and score points based on what you hit. Basic, right? The problem arises when the ball just decides it wants to fall into the pit or stop halfway through the path.
You got me fucked up.
Like, wow, thanks for giving me points for losing a pinball. It feels unfinished. You also need 5 million points to clear it. This takes way too long to get through. You collect red star rings to multiply your score, but it takes so long to reach anything substantial. It'd be fine if the cap was lower, but it's not. You may be asking, aren't you complaining a bit too much about a pinball minigame? You know what? Maybe I am, but I'm still playing it. Wait a minute. It's fine, and once you hit a certain multiplier threshold, it's much more manageable. It just takes forever to get there. It is a very nice feeling though once you finally clear it. Finally! I never have to look at another pinball machine ever again in my life! Oh. The open zone stuff is great, for the most part. Sonic controls really well, you have a ton to do, and it doesn't ever get boring to run around the island and discover what each one has to offer. There is one major thing I skipped over though. This time around, Sonic doesn't just have his usual homing attack. He can punch and kick now. Remember that skill tree I mentioned earlier? Most of the unlocks here are new moves to use in combat. Psyloop is the main gimmick here. While you can use it to farm rings, it is also useful when fighting literally anything. Circle an enemy to send it upward, leaving it vulnerable to whatever move you feel like mashing that day. Some moves are useful for certain enemies, like Sonic Boom, where you can stand at a comfortable distance from this ball enemy and... Fully upgraded, Sonic has tons of moves that you can combine and mess around with. You can dodge anything on the ground or in the air. You can also cancel most moves into this dodge, which allows you to instantly use another move. You can also parry anything that comes your way. Anything. You don't have to time it either, just hold the shoulder buttons down and you're essentially invincible.
It also stalls you in the air for some reason.
Like he's just floating here. There's a pretty noticeable cooldown on the parry though, so it's hard to do them in quick succession. Combining all this together makes getting into fights really fun, especially at higher difficulties, since you have to combine attacking with dodging, moving, and parrying. Sometimes though, you'll be fighting something and you'll end up just bouncing off of them, and that locks you in that state. You can't do any other attacks, all you can do is move around. There's a good variety of enemies here though. Some of my favorites include Asura, where you run up its legs and can stay on top of it after being knocked off if you're good enough, all variations of Ninja, Strider, whose whole gimmick is grind rails, Squid, Sumo, and Ghost, who saps your ring count throughout the fight, and you have to reach the pillar by platforming. You can be creative here, which is really fun.
Story is an important part of any single-player game. When you're going through these massive worlds and whatnot, you want to know what's going on. Me, personally, though, I haven't really been able to sit down and enjoy a good story in a while, but this one's pretty good. I mean, I'm not done with it yet, but I'm close to the end. I've been enjoying like the characters and the story itself and the world building and everything around it. It's been great so far. Where did the moon come from? All things considered, I think there's a decent story here. As I mentioned earlier, it took me a minute to adjust to the new voice direction, but as I heard more of it, I think I liked the way they handled the characters. It allowed the overall tone to take a more mysterious and somber approach, and it worked out well. They brought Ian Flynn, the writer of the IDW Sonic comics, on to write for the game. This is a good change, and I like the way he writes the characters. One thing he does here is reference the past games a lot. I love seeing these little mentions, and having these characters acknowledge their past feels very validating as a Sonic fan. I hope they keep him on for future games. As for the story itself, it's centered around the Starfall Islands and the mystery of those who inhabited them, the Ancients. Sonic, Tails, and Amy are headed to the islands because they track the Chaos Emeralds there. Knuckles arrives there after investigating ruins in Sky Sanctuary before being trapped, and Eggman is there trying to obtain the ancient secrets. As you progress through the islands, you meet this small floating person. This is Sage, an AI developed by Eggman who became sentient when she first interacted with the Ancients' technology. She starts out very hostile, with her sole mission being to protect Eggman, but over time, she comes to understand Sonic in the way he is, and ends up being a middleman between the two at the end of the game. Eggman and Sage also form a father-daughter bond throughout the story. A lot of the development occurs through Eggman's thoughts in these egg memos you can collect by fishing, and they give us a lot of lore, but it also shows Eggman starting to see Sage as a daughter of sorts. This is really cool. I really like Sage. She's the coolest Sonic character we've gotten in a while, and her arc was written very well. I really hope she becomes a recurring character going forward. Meanwhile, Sonic is running around the island saving his friends who became trapped upon arrival to the islands, and the interaction Sonic gets with each of the three characters is really nice. He acts a certain way with each one. He's supportive and encouraging to Amy, he's playful and brotherly with Knuckles, and he's reassuring and acts like a big brother to Tails. It's all really heartwarming, and it's nice to see the characters being genuine with each other for the first time in a while. The Koco are actually remnants of the Ancients, and once they fulfill their purpose, they die. From my understanding, they're vessels for the ancient spirits, so their legacy lives on or something like that. It's just weird seeing these awesome little guys that I thought were just that end up... Yeah, that's wild. We find out the Chaos Emeralds are from space, and so are the Ancients. They were drawn to Earth by the Master Emerald, which is just... sitting on the ground? Is the Master Emerald of a different origin? Where did it come from?
I'm so confused.
The Ancients' home planet was wiped out by an off-screen force, and even though they escaped, it followed them to Earth. They were able to seal it away in cyberspace back then, but fast forward to now and Sonic ends up freeing it. It's a mysterious voice from earlier, by the way. It was guiding Sonic to free it the whole time. We chase it out into space and finally get to see what it looks like, and...
Again, where did the moon come from?
The end?
That's its name?
Felt rather rushed, all things considered. Throughout the game, Sonic is being corrupted by cyber energy that eventually gets the best of him at the end of Raya Island. Then 5 seconds later...
Those visions we saw.
What visions, Tails?
Sonic's friends just disappear and he's fine. I wish they did more with that. The final Titan is way easier than you'd think.
What is this? Why does it have a gun?
But the true final boss is just to shoot him up. I enjoy this personally, although it feels very anticlimactic for the final boss. The end gives a whole monologue while you chip its health away, then Sage sacrifices herself. I love a lot of aspects of this story, but I wish they handled the later part better. The characters are great, writing is the best it's been in a long time, and I felt invested all the way through. I'm very excited for the future of the series and the stories they'll get to tell going forward. Now that I've touched on most of the main parts of the game, I want to shift our focus again. While making this, I knew I wanted to save the best part for last. My favorite thing here, the peak of this game. The part of the game that I'd consider almost perfect. Can you tell I'm not great at making a super dramatic hook yet? The Titans act as the main boss for each of the first 3 islands. As regular Sonic, you're extremely underpowered compared to these things. You're thrown across the island, shot at, and chased by a saw blade near the beginning of your journey on each island. They don't bother you again though until you reveal the path to them. Once you do reach them though, your goal is to climb up to the final Chaos Emerald on top of their head, and once you do, the tone takes a dramatic shift. This is my favorite moment in the game. The smile Sonic makes when floating over Giganto as Undefeatable kicks in shows that he knows the game has changed, and so does the player. You're no longer on the ground, lost in this unfamiliar land. You're in the air, glowing, with that sense of familiarity the Chaos Emeralds bring. You're Super Sonic. You're undefeatable. This is the best interpretation of Supersonic I have ever seen. Not only does moving around feel good, but all the combat moves you've gotten familiar with throughout your adventure are here too, but faster and even better. It's like you're maxed out. It really gives you an idea of just how powerful the emeralds make Sonic. The spectacle here is off the charts. Giganto is a standard fight. Part of the island acts as an arena. It shoots a giant laser at you at one point. It's awesome. Wyvern is a chase across all of Ares Island. It shoots rockets at you that you can parry back at it. For me, this is where the spectacle factor is at its highest. Knight is similar to Giganto, but he has a saw blade that you can control and hit back into it. Each of the Titans has 2 phases, although it doesn't make much of a difference. They just have cool lasers shooting from them now. Giganto is the only one that actually has them in your way. My only real issue with these fights is the over-reliance on quick-time events, especially near the end of fights. The mashing ones are fine, but the ones where it gives you a ton of time to hit one button ruins the flow a bit for me. Especially since even if you miss, you get multiple shots at it. I would have made this similar to the QTE system in Sonic Unleashed, where you have to press a sequence of buttons in the time limit just to make it a little more engaging. Also, his homing attack recoil animation is ripped straight from Sonic Forces, just thought I'd let you know. Other than that, these 3 fights are the highlight of Sonic Frontiers. It's fun, it's engaging, it's hype, and everything is just perfect. Especially the music. Oh wait, yeah, I forgot to talk about the music. I love the music in this game. This might be my favorite Sonic OST ever. The Titan themes all feature Kellen Quinn from Sleeping with Sirens. The end credits song One Way Dream features Nathan Sharp, aka Nate Wants to Battle, and Find Your Flame also features Tyler Smith alongside Quinn. The vocal themes in this game are some of the best to date, my favorite being Break Through It All. The open zone has dynamic music, meaning as you progress, it'll change. I love the way it starts you out though. A really calm, simple, yet mysterious feel. It sets the tone going forward and I love it. Cyberspace has a unique track for every level, with my favorites being and one of my favorites is the song that plays during the final boss. It goes from space synth to rock and I love it. Oh yeah, there's also lo-fi here. The main theme, I'm Here, is great. Vandalize plays if you beat the game on normal or easy difficulty, and I still play that song constantly. Sonic games have a track record for having great soundtracks, and this is one of the best, no doubt. It's 2 in the morning. And I just beat Sonic Frontiers for the 5th time. I think it's safe to say, I really like this game. Overall, I'm very happy with how Frontiers turned out. The highs are some of the highest in the series, while the lows are things that could be improved on given more dev time. We have a year's worth of updates to hope for stuff like that. For me, Sonic games, no matter the quality, have replay value. I love going back to certain games and replaying stages for faster times. Even Forces has a few stages I enjoy going back to. Frontiers is a bit different though. I find myself going back to just run around the islands and fight whatever ends up in my path. This is exactly what I wanted to be able to do with this game without it feeling boring or repetitive, and so far that hasn't happened yet. There's so many small things that I love about it. Some of the cutscenes feel cinematic, implementing air tricks, the day and night cycle, the setting sliders, being able to cancel into other moves during combat, stuff like that makes the game for me. It feels so rewarding to finally have a good 3D Sonic game after a decade, which may be why I hold it in such high regard right now.
Hey, I love the game, but it's not like it's my dream game or anything. I'm not that crazy for it.
Oh hey, what are my 4 copies of Sonic Frontiers doing here? I also don't regret buying it 4 times. I've played it at least once on every system, and the differences are very small, but it's cool to play it with different controllers or in different spots. Surprisingly, even the Switch version holds its own pretty well. It's not the greatest experience by any means, but it gets the job done. I just can't get over this game. Super Sonic at its best, free-roaming open-world Sonic, fun combat, decent boost levels. I'm so happy this game turned out well. Frontiers feels like the first step in a new era for the series. This game shows that Sonic Team cares. So if it's a sign of what's to come, I think I'm more excited than ever for the future. For the first time in a while, it's truly satisfying to be a Sonic fan.